What's going on YouTube, and welcome to another one. Today we're going to talk about the Retroid Pocket Classic. If you guys know, you know I love vertical handhelds, and I even made a post a while ago. I want to say about 2-3 months ago when they first announced this, and I said, hey, if it's around $150, I'm going to get it. And guess what? It was exactly $150 because I ended up getting it off of Amazon. If you haven't already, be sure to check out my video on where I talked about comparing handhelds or whether or not you should buy from Amazon or from overseas websites. But anyway, let's just go ahead and get right into it. So just starting off with just the overall look and feel and the overall build quality. One, again, I love vertical handhelds, so you really just cannot go wrong with this in my opinion. In addition, there's just a lot of buttons on here. You have the, I'm used to handhelds with just the 4 buttons, as you guys can see, that Super Nintendo layout. So here are my previous handhelds, the Super Nintendo colorway. It also has those buttons as well, but this one more so mimics the Sega Saturn. So rather than the 4-button layout, you have 6 buttons, making it ideal for not only Sega Saturn games, but for just pretty much about any fighting game. And that's honestly what I'm going to call this. This is the fighting vertical. This is the ideal handheld if you like fighting games, whether it be some 2D or 3D, to be honest with you, because it's able to play just so much, even without it having like that extra joystick that we're used to having. Like this D-pad is perfect for, busting off combos and everything else. Quick size comparison. So of course, this is the Retroid Pocket Classic. This is the Miyu Mini Plus, and this is the RG406V. Now, I will say the sizes, the RG406V and the Retroid Pocket Classic, they are pretty much about the same as far as height. Let's go ahead and flip it over so you guys can see the disc, the thickness of it. They are very similar in builds, just all the way around. You still do have the 4 triggers, but one of the major differences is the grips in the back. The RG406V has the built-in grips. This one has more like that hump, which is not really a problem. Like, of course, if you're used to Game Boy, then boom, this is exactly what it is, the Game Boy Color. But I've become so used to not only the joystick, but having these grips in the back, man. I didn't realize how comfortable those were until I switched over to the Retroid Pocket Classic, and I'm like, oh, okay, like, wait a minute. Let me readjust and reposition my hands in order to make this work. And when I say make it work, I'm not saying like this was a problem. I'm not saying that it's an uncomfortable handheld. I'm just speaking from my perspective, because once y'all got used to this, it's really kind of difficult to go back to my handheld without those grips. But this does so much, and it's just so visually appealing to where you just gonna naturally want to pick this up. Just kind of compare, just compare all. I'm gonna actually take this out because this isn't really like a real comparison. I already just pulled this out for size differences, but these would be like the actual real comparison. This one has a better screen. They're both touchscreen, but this one is of course OLED, which I'm gonna talk about a little bit later. This is my first device to where that actually offers an OLED screen, and I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal until I started playing it, and I'm looking at the colors, and I'm looking at just how vibrant everything is, and I definitely see the hype around that. It's not too many differences, like even when it comes down to the volume. Well, actually there are a lot of differences. You don't have the joystick on this one, you don't have the grips, you do have the menu buttons and the start select, but again, you just get those 2 extra buttons. On the sides you have your volume up, down, and the power. On this side you just have this button just switches it over into the Retroid mode, not Retroid, the Ambernick whatever mode, and on this side you have the power and the up, down, and volume buttons. So very similar builds. It's just one just has grips and 2 analog joysticks for you to play around with. Now, as far as power goes, they both play up to PS2 and GameCube. I will say this one probably is going to run a little bit better, just because it's a little bit stronger chip, and it's going to look better because of that OLED screen. That OLED model screen is, again, it's just absolutely beautiful. They both have fan modes. They're both Android based. So if you here's the fan on this one. Get it zoomed in. All right, boom. So here's the fan on the RG406V. And the fan on here, it's on the inside, so you probably can't even see it, but the fan is actually right here. Hold on. Damn. The fan is in there, and then it vents from up top. I will say, I'm gonna go ahead and note this now, since we're just on the topic of the back of the unit. When you're charging this gets pretty hot. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, it's like an uncomfortable hot, like something where I wouldn't be comfortable leaving the location where this was charging for too long. I wouldn't leave this charging overnight. Like after about 20 minutes, I'm unplugging. and I'm being so serious. I don't know what that is, but the back of this unit does get hot once it's while it's charging. Okay, so just kind of move this to the side for a sec. Just kind of have this as background. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and turn this on. If you haven't already, I do have a few videos kind of already out to where I'm showing you how to set up your background, how to create custom cool backgrounds for your device, and how to get that on there. Be sure to check out some of my reels, but just getting this turned on, like, I love the fact that this touchscreen is actually pretty responsive. As far as like the corners and the edges, I'm not really missing any points when I want to open up something. Here's TikTok. When I want to hit that corner down, oh, you know what? It might be a little soft on the edge, but you know, for the most part, everything is good. I'm not having any glitches. I haven't had any unexpected restarts or anything. Just so far, everything is great. As far as organization goes, it's classic Android. So if you're familiar with cell phones, or if you're familiar with using the Android operating system, this is no different. Just imagine this as a phone with extra buttons. I'm honestly using this right now as my personal, entertainment device. It does store a lot of my music, so I do have Spotify and a lot of things loaded up on here. And rather than taking up space on my phone, I'd rather just use this because it just doesn't take up space, and I'm able to put way more songs on here because of the built-in memory. I want to say I have 128 gigs on this, but then I also have that 64 gig card. So yeah, pretty packed out. It's not full, but yeah, it's definitely capable of doing all that I need. Another thing that I really like about this unit is the fact that it is Bluetooth. I'm listening to music right now using Bluetooth headphones, and I know that's kind of standard, kind of basic, but again, I come from a point to where we was just trying to get Crash Bandicoot for PS1 to work on a handheld, so to get to this point is just crazy. I will say though, they do have the headphone jack up top, which is kind of annoying. I am one of those people who still use wired headphones, mainly because I get tired of using Bluetooth because of the battery always dying. So with the corded one, with the wired, you never have to worry about that. But with this unit, it's at the top, so when you plug it in, you have to wrap it around the back, and I guess it just kind of falls right there, so you want to make sure it's not on the triggers. That is really my only real annoyance with the actual build quality of this. Other than that, we're good. Just a quick comparison. Here's the RG406V. They put the headphone jack at the bottom. Same with the Miu Mini Plus. They also put the headphone jack at the bottom. Like, it's just way more convenient for the user when you have the headphone jack down there. Another thing I really like about this is, I guess the Retroid Launcher. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. But at the same time, I like the fact that you don't really have to restart your system to go in and out of it. On my previous unit, I want to say it was the RG353VS or V. You had that option to go between Android and Linux-based OS, but again, you had to restart the entire thing. With this one. In the Retroid Launcher, but if I wanted to get out of it, I would just hit this middle button twice. See, it's trying to act like we filming. But yeah, once you push it twice, it takes you back to the home screen like that. So I did like that. I don't really like having to restart my system too many times. Like, even with my Steam Deck, I do toggle between game mode and desktop mode, just kind of depending on if I'm streaming or not. But and again, it takes it doesn't take a long time to restart, but I just don't like doing it. It's just way more convenient to be able to slide in and out from your apps and operating systems without having to do too much. And another surprising feature about this that I did not know is that it has rumble. It has a little vibration motor in there. So initially when you turn it on, I think you will feel it a little bit, and I think that's what kind of confused me at first, but it wasn't until I started playing the game and I'm hearing the motor and I'm feeling it as I'm getting hit, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's dope that they were able to put that in this unit. I know a lot of these say that they have rumble on them, but this is the first unit to where I haven't really had to tinker or do anything before actually feeling the rumble just out of the box. So I did appreciate that. Okay, so let's get into some of the things that I'm not a really big fan of when it comes to this unit. One, the battery. Again, like, I'm not saying the battery life is bad, I'm just not a big fan of how this charges. Again, it just gets kind of uncomfortably hot. Like, I don't mind my unit getting a little warm while I'm charging it, but this one does not feel it. It almost feels like I'm cooking the battery. Another thing I'm not a big fan of is just the overall organization. The Android side is fine, don't get me wrong. Like, you're able to move files around, you're able to extract, copy, do all of that stuff from the Android side, simple and easy. But when it comes to this Retroid Launcher, oh my goodness. a lot of my issues with this is it just has to just come down to software. Let's just go ahead and get right into it. So let's say I loaded up all of my PlayStation games, all of my ROMs and everything. I loaded it from maybe like 2 different memory cards just to try to make sure I wanted to get all of my games on one device. And what I noticed is, one, the operating system is actually pretty dope. The Retroid Launcher, it does go in there, it scrapes all of your games, and then it will go in there and search the internet for all the necessary, images or whatnot to kind of complete your collection, which I thought was just really, really dope. But the issue is not all of them play. You do get this little option right here. I'll just go ahead and hit force open. But then I get this notification right here. Now, what's interesting is the same files that run on one system does not run on this one for whatever reason. I think it's just the overall file format. They may want, I think it said they wanted the .bin file, but I had the .pbb file for a lot of these games. So basically most of the games that transfer over from my Miu Mini that I tried to just play on here just does not work. Another thing is, as you guys can see, you see how many blank that is. That's all one game, by the way. So a lot of Street Fighter that got copied over. Like once you extract that folder, it scans that entire folder, and rather than just kind of smartly, or I guess organize it and put it into whatever file to make it readable, it split everything up and then it scanned everything separately, and then now I just have a whole bunch of purple boxes, and then no matter which one I click on, none of them open. So that is actually pretty trash. Interesting. Notice how I said that one, then this one opened up immediately. That's funny. But all of them do not work. That is actually pretty hilarious. That did just open up. Okay, let's try another one. So WCW Mayhem is working. Let's see what this Virtual Fighter talk about. Honestly though, I think some of these are not working too because these are not PlayStation games. That could be another reason, but it's just the overall organization of this atrocious, and I'm not gonna fault them too much for this because Retroid, this is not the first device to where I purchased it and had issues with organization. The Ambernic versions, they have pretty bad organization features as well. When it comes to just the built-in stuff, now, it's guaranteed some kind of way that I could fix this, but I felt like this should have just been automatic. I'm not a fan of that, and honestly, it's no big deal for me because once I've established the fact that I'm only going to really play fighting games on here, having the games like Crash Bandicoot and other platformers on here really not a big deal for me right now. But if I really wanted to play those games, I would have to go in there and tinker or go find different versions of those games in order to get it to work. Just kind of staying on that. The setup wasn't hard. Like getting all your apps and everything on there is pretty easy, but again, getting everything configured to where it works for this unit, not necessarily the easiest job. Setting up N64 games on here, which is actually, this is now my favorite system to play N64 on, because you have those extra buttons. Because the N64 has the 4 C buttons, and then you have the A, B, you have the LR, and then you have that C in the back. So this is one of the few units to where you have enough buttons to actually pull that off. So super dope for that, but it's not going to naturally be configured just straight out of the box. Like, it's going to be configured, but it may not necessarily work for the type of games that you're trying to play. So just keep in mind, you're going to need to configure that. Long story short, you need to turn off the little C stick or whatever, and then just set everything to the D-pad to where it knows that, okay, this is the default function and we're just going to use that every time. And honestly, that's really about it when it comes to anything bad concerning this unit. Everything else is just kind of pretty sweet, but that's everything that I just kind of like and don't like. I do want to do more videos on this. I know for sure I'm going to do a deep comparison between this and the RG406V. We will do some more gameplay, and so just kind of stay tuned for more videos on the Retroid Pocket Classic. And we'll just go ahead and end this video off with a lot of gameplay footage. So appreciate you watching, and see you guys next video.